Yeah, so thank you everybody for tuning in. Today, what I wanted to talk about is OpenClaw, because OpenClaw is pretty much OpenClaw, ClaudeBot, MoltBot, whatever you want to call it. We'll talk about those different names in this quick overview. But OpenClaw has literally changed the game, right? And the way they've changed the game is that before, when you wanted to do AI automation or you wanted to, you know, do anything with AI, it was it was easy, but it was cumbersome and it didn't do things for you. Like for example, you go into Chat GPT, you ask Chat GPT questions, it gives you instructions, and you got to go do the instructions. And then we started to get agents and and workflows and stuff like that, like Make and Zapier and stuff like that, and use those in order to like automate some workflows and processes. And we got N8N that let us actually build these autonomous agents that can reason and do things on their own. But we didn't have a way to be able to communicate with the AI and then it do stuff for you immediately, the way that is kind of promised to us when we look at stuff like Jarvis on the Avengers. But OpenClaw just opened the floodgates on that in a way that completely changes the game, because essentially what they have created is a mechanism where you can use a chat tool, let's say like WhatsApp, Telegram, or Discord, right? You can speak to your agent that's running on your computer and tell it to do things, and it can give you updates, and it can actually go and actually be your actual fingers on your computer, actual fingers on the web if you want to give it access to that, and just do work for you. Like if you want to tell it to go ahead and open up email or do research or do whatever, it'll just go and do those things. It'll make the files on your computer, it'll organize this, it'll send the email to that person, it'll do all this stuff because it basically is you giving your computer a brain. Basically you taking your computer and making it your assistant, with the power of OpenClaw, which is crazy, right? That now we are here. After only 3 years ago, we were making little stick figures with AI and thinking it was cool. And now we're literally at the precipice of being able to have our own Jarvis, which is crazy. So let's look through some of these slides real quick, so you can see what what it is that this actually does. So you see right here in my slide, it says liberate your agents from the browser, because the problem that we had that we just talked about is isolation, right? Your agents today, they're trapped in proprietary clouds, they're confined to your browsers, they're chained behind walled gardens, and your data is locked away and wasted on all these other platforms. It doesn't live where you live, so it can't actually do stuff to your things. It can't take action on your machine on your behalf, in most cases, right? That's where most of your agents live. Now there is tools, like I said, like N8N, where you could do some of that. N8N was a game changer, but this is the next evolution, right? This is going to make N8N completely obsolete, right? N8N will be part of the tool chain. Let me not say obsolete, but Eminem will not be the star of the show. Like it's like when you have like a athlete and they used to be the star of the team, and then they draft somebody else that's better, and so now they got to take a second seat. That's what's happening now. N8N is still great, but N8N is nothing compared to what you could do with this at all. So the solution with OpenClaw is essentially what it does is you can see here in this little in this right here is you can see that there is this little chat screen, and this could be Telegram or WhatsApp or whatever, but you connect your bot to WhatsApp or Telegram, and then what you're able to do is you're able to communicate back and forth with the bot from here, and it will give you let you converse just like you can do with Chat GPT. Nothing crazy there, but the other thing that you're able to do is you're able to have this agent running locally on your machine that can access your files, execute your commands, and integrate seamlessly with your workflow on your computer itself. So anything that you can do from your computer, it can control for you. So it's almost like you could control your computer from your phone by giving the bot commands and instructions on what to do. And it's going to remember the conversations that you had with it. You're gonna be able to give it a personality, all those different things, and and it's free through those open standards um, that we have. So I think that's, if you get where I'm going, that's crazy at the end of the day to have that type of ability. So what's the philosophy? Well, the philosophy is it's your assistant, right? It knows who you are. It knows things about you. Like it's there to work with you on your stuff, right? Also, it's running on your machine, right? So it's local first architecture running on local host, which means it's on your machine, has access to anything that you give it access to on your machine, and it also has your rules, right? You control what you do. You control, how transparent things are. You can do whatever you want, and even you can choose what model you want to use, etc. So if you want to use a model that will allow you to do certain things that ChatGPT won't let you do, you can do that. You can choose what model you use to power your bot. So you have complete and total control in that way. So the so so think about like the way that things have flown. Originally, earlier in the year, we had they came out with this name Claude, right? To be kind of a joke of of Claude, open source. I mean not the open source, the tool that Anthropic made, and Anthropic's lawyers kind of got involved and was like, nah, you can't use that name because come on, that's crazy. Then they changed the name to Moltbot. And so they came up with that name, and that name is not that great. So then they changed it again, and now it's OpenClaw, and that's the name that they promised they're going to stay with. So OpenClaw is the name, but you'll still have people saying Claudebot or Moltbot because literally only a couple of weeks ago, from the time I'm recording, that was the name. It literally, this hasn't been out that long. That's why there's a lot of security concerns and stuff like that with it, because that's what happens with any brand new technology. So you got to be proactive. But the power that you get here is worth the growing pains to figure out how to get this good. So keep that in mind. Why did they decide to come up with the name in the way they did? If you care, the reason why they did that is because lobsters, right, are masters of adaptation. They're constantly molting their shells to grow. They're resilient, resourceful, and surprisingly intelligent. They move sideways, thinking differently about problems. They have hard exteriors, protecting soft interiors, just like good security architecture. And plus, they have claws, and the claw is the law. So the multiverse isn't just a mascot; it's a philosophy. Constant evolution, lateral thinking, protective shells around vulnerable cores, and the power to grasp and manipulate the world around you. So that's the idea. The model, the claw is the law, local control. Battle cry, exfoliate. Skincare is greater than extermination, and constant molting, updating. They're updating this all the time. And the philosophy, cybernetics meets marine biology in a beautiful fusion of hard shells and soft intelligence. So at the end of the day, they're constantly making changes to this to try to keep up with all the security concerns, etc. But you do have to keep that in mind, and be careful about how you use it and what you do. And you can never fully get rid of the you can never fully get rid of the how can I say, of the vulnerabilities, right? The same way you can't fully get rid of vulnerabilities in real life with humans, right? Now that we are making these things autonomous, etc., they can always be manipulated, and if we don't teach them properly, just like our children, right? So, for example, uh, if you have a password and you and let's say your significant other know the password, if somebody talks your significant other into giving up the password somehow, they trick them into it, that's a vulnerability you can't actually fully get rid of. The only way you can mitigate it is that your significant other really knows how to catch and see those potential problems and not to expose you to those problems because they're educated enough to do so. That's all you can do with these tools in that sense. So there is no way to perfectly make it so that they can't be manipulated, but you can harden them to make it as difficult as possible, and also the principle of least access, where you don't give it access to stuff it doesn't need access to, right? Because the moment you give it access to something, now you have a loose end, right? That the bot can somehow potentially expose your information unintentionally if somebody is able to convince it to give up the information. So be careful with that. Don't give it passwords and things like that. And there's plenty of ways that you don't have to do that. But that's one of the first ways that somebody will really do a number on you if you give away that information to the bot and the bot has it. So that's essentially how that works. So the way that the application works, that the bot works, is that the bot has access to an API key that basically has it be able uh, to talk to, let's say for example, Claude over here, right? And every single time you speak to it in Telegram, it's going to go through this process, send a message to Claude, it's going to do its processing, but it's also going to have stored some information over here that's stored, which is basically the bot's personality is stored in files on your computer. So it has a file for its soul, right? Which basically is how you want the bot to actually behave. Who is it at its core? Do you want it to be nice? Do you want it to be mean? And you can put extensive information about what it is, and also it will try to help draft this itself after you give it information, right? It also has content that also this thing called heartbeat that it has as well. So it has a heartbeat, and the heartbeat file, what that does is within the heartbeat file, that's where you put anything that you want the bot to do on a periodic basis. So it'll keep coming back to the heartbeat file every once in a while and checking to see what's in there and seeing is there something that my user wants me to do like every 30 minutes or every hour or every 2 hours or something like that. Like for example, I have it sending me messages on a running basis, things that it's doing behind the scenes, so that I can keep getting an update of those things. So that's what the heartbeat file is, and those two are super important because uh, they essentially decide the the way that your bot is going to behave, right? And you should really think about that these files, and there's a couple more that I'm going to talk about too, but you should really think of these files as being essentially, how can I say, the the source of truth for your bot, right? They essentially tell the bot, like I said, how the bot is supposed to behave. They give the bot its identity, right? So they give the bot its identity. They give the bot its feelings, its desires, all that stuff that you could think about. is all going to be within there. So the other one that you're going to have is also going to have information about its relationship to you. So it's going to have a user file as well, and that user file is everything that it thinks and knows about you, right? So the soul is basically what is basically where you tell the bot who it is, right? Like its core. The heartbeat is basically what you tell it to do over and over and over again. Like tell it to check Instagram 3 times a day at 5 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m. or something like that, right? That like what things it's supposed to do over and over and over and over and over again, um, so that it knows how to do it. And if you don't want it to do something over and over again on its own, just leave heartbeat empty and it won't, right? Also, it's going to have things like, for example, an agents file as well. And the agents file, right, is basically going to tell it how to orchestrate sub agents that you might need to do when you need to do processes behind the scenes, right? So that's that. And then also, and let's say we have an agents file for the sub agents, right? And then you're also going to have your tools file, which basically is going to be a whole bunch of skills and stuff like that the agent basically things the agent can use in order to carry out its work. So you have tools in there that basically tell it like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do with the tools, etc. So that's another thing that you have. You also uh, could have what else do we have beside that? I'm forgetting one. Oh, Bootstrap, which essentially you could look at Bootstrap as like the birth certificate of the bot, where essentially it has all the information that explains, um, you know, uh, its memory, like memory stuff, etc. Right? So keep that in mind. So those are the things that kind of like make up the bot itself. So what are the different channels that you can use in order to speak with in order to speak with OpenClaw, right? So some of the things that you could use WhatsApp, right? You could use Telegram, you could use Discord, you could also use Signal. That's not listed here. You could use Slack. Basically, anything where you could use your existing communication workflow and use it to speak with the bot to be able to give it instructions, because you need to have some mechanism to be able to talk to it, right? Otherwise, it's kind of ends up just kind of floating around. You need to have some way to be able to communicate with the bot itself, and when you do that, then you're able to do that communication and then give it commands and stuff like that. But remember, it's running on your device, so even though you might talk to it on your phone, on WhatsApp, it's actually going to be doing that work on your computer. So remember, you can't talk to it if you turn off your computer. So keep that in mind. You got to have the computer on, and you could have it doing work. And of course, you could speak on WhatsApp or Telegram through your computer itself. But you could do it from your phone, and you can don't even have to be home. Just leave your computer on in your house, and you can go somewhere else. You can speak to it from WhatsApp, and it could do stuff on the computer while you're not even there. So that is, you know, um, That's one of the big benefits of it. That it works already with existing tools that you probably already know, right? So you could talk to your agent in any way that's available, right? So you could talk through it through DMs and group messages, or so if you want to have it inside of a group with other people, you could do that. You just have to just set it up properly in order to be able to make that happen. But keep in mind, it's still running on your machine, on your infrastructure, and be careful who you give access to be able to do that. Again, that's another vulnerability because it's another person. Their phone gets stolen, and they don't have a lock or a simple 1 2 3 4 code to open their phone up, and they get in there and they start messing with it. I mean, you got to keep all that in mind. You should be able to manage it all yourself and kick the person out of the group if you need to, but you just got to keep that attack surface in mind. You can send images, media. Basically, you could treat it like ChatGPT. It's just that ChatGPT doesn't go out and do stuff for you on your computer in a easy and reliable way. Even though they did try to set something like that up a little bit, but it doesn't really work in your machine or on your device. But this is basically if ChatGPT had access to your entire computer. And then so it could do things on your behalf. It could book appointments, do anything you give it access to, it'll be able to do. Right? So that's what you need to understand. Also, the agent, the way that it works is that it is powered by something like Anthropic, Claude from Anthropic, or OpenAI's models, and so you give it access to the model through your API, and then the bot is already pre-configured to be able to plug in with that, and then go and go do amazing things as a result, right? So that's pretty much all you have to do there. You don't have to really worry too much about what makes that part work, but that's why it can do that. And like I said, you could have your agents file to intelligently route it to the right model when necessary, right? In order to do different types of tasks. Like you might need it to talk to use Claude in order to code, and then you want to use OpenAI when you're having a chat, and then you want to use this when you're doing that. Like whatever way you want the routing to work, it can actually intelligently route the agents to the right to the right model to do the right task, which is insane, right? So capabilities, like for example, you have readable memory files, like we talked about, that have inside of it all of the information that you need in order to remember and persist all of your past conversations and everything that it's learned from you, right? You also have web tools, right, where it can use in order to search the web, etc. That this way it's not just regurgitating training data; that it can actually go out and look for things, etc. By default. And of course, you have your system prompts via Soul MD, that that you can use in order to give it real agency and not simulated helpfulness. Like that, really, you really can tell about how it's supposed to think and behave, and really give it a personality in a way that you weren't able to do before. So, how does the memory work? Well, every task, every insight gets stored in human readable markdown files, right? So this way it isn't like a black box database. It's your data in a format on your machine that you can easily read. So you can always go back to these files and see if it's thinking something that you don't agree with, that you may want to change, you may want to tweak. You can literally go in there and make changes to the directory inside the workspace, right? So you can go into the workspace. I know it says memory, but update. But you can go inside the workspace, make those changes to whatever files you need to in order to make it work the way that you would like it to work. And like we also mentioned, real time information. So it can use the search API in order to go out and look up the weather, look up stock prices, latest news. It can actually go and actually go and navigate the web if you choose to do that, And so the training data isn't where like the information ends. It can also look up other information, which is huge, right? Now, the system prompts via soul.md, they define your agent's personality, capabilities, and constraints in a single markdown file. But that's the agent's core identity, its purpose, its knowledge, its boundaries, right? And the thinking levels, it can configure cognitive depth. So you want quick responses, set thinking level to 1. I need deep reasoning, crank it up to 5. The agent adjusts its processing based on the task complexity, right? And also file manipulation and command execution. The agent can read files, write files, execute shell commands, interact with your system, right? So this is real agency, not pretend helpfulness, just like it says. Basically meaning that like it can do stuff for you. Like like if you don't know what shell commands and all that is, it basically, you ever seen the Matrix and you see like when you bring up that little black screen and just going blah, 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 and all the green things are popping across it. That's what nerds like me use in order to do cool stuff on the computer. It can do that stuff for you on your behalf. So you could tell it to do something in plain language and it can go matrix screen it real quick and come back. But you have to keep in mind it has complete control over complete ability to do anything on the machine. So you have to give it constraints on things you don't want it to do. It's not really a good idea to put it on your personal computer that you don't plan on only doing work. If you don't have a business machine that is there just for you to do work and only has work stuff on it, and you got like your cousin's birthday pictures and pictures that only you and your significant other should be seeing and stuff like that, you may not want to put that directly on the same machine where you install this. And if you do, you're going to want to put it into a virtual machine within it, or to actually go and rent a virtual machine from AWS or something like that, and put it on that infrastructure, and have it have access to things it needs to have access there. And there's still benefits to doing that, where you can get a lot of stuff done by putting it inside of your own cloud that you have access to. Um, so there's a lot of different things you can do, but you got to be careful about that, because it has access to your entire computer. You need to make sure that you understand that. Like, there's nothing on your computer that it couldn't get to and see if it wanted to. So if you're not clear on your instructions on like what it should avoid, what it should be doing, etc., it can technically do anything. So you do need to be careful about that, right? Now, different ways that you can that you can interface and control it, outside of just speaking to it on Telegram, is there's a web dashboard that you can bring up on localhost 18789, right? And so basically, once you boot it up, you can go into your browser and type localhost 18789 and see things about the agent, right? So once you do that, it will show you information about what it's doing at any given time. So I'm gonna go ahead and share this real quick, because I don't think I'm trying to make sure I don't have any information else to make sure everything's turned off. But you see, this is like the type of thing that you'll see running, right? And it'll tell you what's going on with the with the machine at any given time. This way that you can manipulate it and work with it and do stuff, etc. I don't want to click on certain things. I don't want it to be on the video, so I cleared out some stuff this way that it's not on the screen. So sorry that I have to have this red stuff up here now, but I really literally can't show you that stuff on the screen or I look crazy, and and then you'd be able to steal my stuff and stuff like that. So you don't want to share this with other people, but for you, it's good because you can use it to go ahead and look at what's happening with your bot in real time, right? You also, if you're on Mac, you have a Mac OS companion that you can use, that you can basically use like a regular Mac application, and then also you could use a terminal, and the terminal will give you information about what's going on with your bot at any given point in time. So those are the three ways that you can monitor the bot once you have it set up. So in order to get started and actually get it installed on your machine, it's actually pretty quick, right? Easier than you probably think. All you have to do to go from zero to hello world in a couple of minutes is all you have to do is you need to make sure that you have Node.js greater than version 22. And the way you're going to do that on depending on what machine you have, a Mac, Windows, etc., is just going to go to nodejs.org. So you're going to go to nodejs.org. When you go to nodejs.org, it's going to tell you right here on the screen, hey, run JavaScript everywhere because you need JavaScript in order to run this. And so you're going to go ahead and get Node.js, and it's going to tell you how to install it on your machine. Using the Linux, you can tell you how to do it there, tell you how to do it on Mac OS, it tell you how to do whatever you want to use in order to get it installed, right? And it'll give you the command you could use to do that, or you can download it yourself, or however you want to go ahead and get it installed. It'll just give you the process that you just, it's really just up to you just to go ahead and run and do that process, right? So for example, let's say you're on Windows, right? And you want to go ahead and you want to use one of these installations in order to get the latest version. You want to make sure you always get an LTS version, long-term support version. Basically, if the number starts with a number starts with an odd number, so if that's 25, you don't want to get 25. You can get 26 when 26 comes out, but you only want the even numbers because the even numbers are the long-term support versions, and you don't want one of those the odd numbers because that's where they're like trying out new experimental things. And when they get bored with it, they're going to move on. They're not going to continue to give it support, and so they'll be using the unsupported version of Node.js. But the even numbers are the LTS versions, and the LTS versions will have support for years, and that's what you want. So whatever you're using in order to install, you just want to basically go ahead and use that installation method, right? Or you can get a pre-built version, right? Where if you want to do it this way, like if you want to do it in the command line, that's the best way to do it, and that'll be the fastest way that it gets installed. But if you need to use the GUI, like you want to, do a click through, could do that really fast. You could do a Windows installer if you're using Windows, Mac OS. They can give you a PKG file. You just run the installer, it'll install it. You just need to be able to tell it, if you're using x64, ARM64, whatever you're using, in order to actually run that the machine's architecture is running on. And then you go ahead and you install that. And Node.js is one of the smoothest installations you're ever going to see with one of these kind of advanced kind of tools. So basically, you know, there's a lot of students that like are in the program already in DBC that have already installed Node.js previously for an N8N. So they already have Node.js and they're good to go. So they don't really have to do anything again here, but most of them were able to install it without any problem. Because literally you just click a button and, it pretty much goes and does what it needs to do. Or you run the commands in your terminal and it'll do what it needs to do. And it's very fast, very efficient, does what it needs to do quickly. So you need to do that though in order to get started. So first you're going to do that, right? Then you don't have to do anything special with no Docker, no Kubernetes, no cloud account, something like that. Just go ahead and just get it installed onto your machine, right? Then after you have installed Node.js, which is what you need in order to actually run the bot, Then you're going to run a command in the terminal that says npm install -g OpenClaw at latest, and that's going to go ahead and actually pull the bot from GitHub onto your machine, like the code for it. And then in order to actually set it up and start it running, you're going to do the third command, which is OpenClaw onboard, right? So first you're going to go ahead and install Node.js. Then you're going to go into the terminal and type npm install -g. The terminal is going to look something like this, right? Let me go ahead and make a new terminal window real quick. Right? It's going to look something like this. And you're going to come into here. It's not going to be as pretty as mine because I've, fancied mine up a little bit. But you're going to see something like this, and then you're going to go ahead. You're just going to type in that command, npm install, as after you have Node.js, install -g OpenClaw at latest. And you're going to run that. And if you're on a Mac, you're going to need to write sudo, which means super user do, in front of it. And it's going to prompt you to go ahead and give and type in a password. And the password is the password you use when you're trying to log into your computer. The important thing to know, though, is that when you try to do that, right, it's going to ask you for your password. No matter how much you type, you probably can hear me typing. It's not going to show up on your screen because it doesn't want to show people how long your password is. So you can't. So you have to actually just type out your password. You won't see anything changing on your screen, but a password, every single thing you're typing is going into the computer. But you're not going to see any output on the screen, and that's for security reasons. So you're going to have to type the password correctly without being able to see it pop up on the screen. So just type out the password properly. If you need to start over, you just press Control C, right? And then you can go ahead and do it again, right? But Control C makes you exit any command before you run it. So just because you type the command, you don't have to run the command. Control C automatically exits whatever you were typing. So if you messed up and you just want to start over, you just Control C and you can retype what you were typing, right? So you're just going to go ahead and run that command and get OpenClaw installed, and then you can run OpenClaw onboard, and then you're just going to follow the instruction that the wizard gives you, right? It's going to ask you for to tell you to generate tokens and stuff like that. So make sure you're already ready with the things that you might want to use with the bot immediately. Which by default, at minimum, you're gonna need to have either an account on Anthropic, or so just wait you can use Claude, or you are gonna want to have an OpenAI account, and you're gonna have to because you're gonna need to be able to generate API keys, and you're gonna have to give it your API key to go in, and you're gonna have to do that in order to connect which way you want to talk to the bot. So it's really easy to do WhatsApp. You could just do it with a QR code. Uh, Telegram's a little bit more complicated, but pretty simple once you get the hang of it. You literally just have to follow the instructions, but basically you just follow the instructions that it gives you, and you just make sure you follow them to the T. But the easiest one is just to do the QR code version with WhatsApp, and that's going to allow you to get started, right? So when you set up the wizard, right, it's going to automate all the auth setup, and it's going to walk you through connecting WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord, or whatever other channel you want, right? It's going to automate all the auth setup, and it's going to walk you through connecting WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord, or whatever other channel you want, right? It generates gateway tokens. So it creates secure tokens for inter-process communication. It installs background daemons that you can use, that start claw or the claw automatically whenever you get going. It's going to automatically create your workspace, right? Which is going to have all of your memory and all your other information in there, and all those example files, right? And I'm going to also tell you, do not try to configure it manually unless you really know what you're doing, because you're going to break it if you do so. The magic happens when you let it like do the things that like do the setup wizard so that you get everything connected the way that you need to connect it. So you're just going to literally go in, type in OpenClaw onboard after you install with that command that I showed you, which is the sudo npm install -g OpenClaw at latest, right? If you're on a Mac, and if you're on Linux, you just need the npm install -g. And if you're on Windows, same thing. Then you're going to choose which way you want to talk to, which way you want to talk. Do you want to talk with WhatsApp? Do you want to do Telegram? Do you want to do Discord? You're going to figure out which way you want to do it. And then based on which one you pick, it's going to walk you through the process of connecting it together, right? So now when it comes to security protocol, you're the gatekeeper, right? You're the one who has to make sure that you act in a secure way. You can't just be wilding out. OpenClaw takes security seriously because your local machine is sacred ground. And so what you have to do is you have to make sure you behave in a way that is not wild. You just can't just be just exposing it to everything just because you heard something is cool or you download some malicious code or whatever. It's not safe just to go on to the website and just download any skill that you see. Do not become one of those people just because you're addicted to trying new things. Keep it with the core stuff and make sure before you add any additional skills, right? Make sure you get comfortable with using it first and then make sure that somebody, if you can't do it yourself, reviews the code in the skill to make sure the skill does not contain malicious code that's trying to hack your computer or do something bad. Because if you add a skill that can do something bad, it compromises everything that you set up, and any personal information that you had, it can now can that's on your computer can now be stolen, right? Very easily. So you need to make sure that you don't behave that way. You can't just try to do everything. But the basics that it does is already 50 times better than anything you've already used. But just don't get too wild and crazy. You can't treat this like N8N where you just can go and test anything anytime you want. You got to take your time. You got to think about it, have conversations, and make sure that you are sure that you want to try something before you do it. Right? So your credentials are going to be stored on your computer, OpenClaw/credentials, and not going to be stored in some random cloud provider or something like that. They can get hacked. I mean, your machine can get hacked too, but you have more control over that. So it's up to you to make sure that your secrets stay secret by you keeping them secret, right? Unknown DMs, right, are not going to be accepted. So it's not going to be able to get approval without you approving it to be able to talk to other people. It's going to be able to talk to you and only you, right? Now, now you can set up a bunch of things in order to make it easier for you to communicate with your bot. Like you can make it so that it can capture images. You can make it so that it has that you can do visual interactions to communicate with it. You can have it be able to deal with voice notes and transcribe. You can do all of those different things, uh, you know, if you want, uh, by by setting up different capabilities with your bot, right? Once you set up once your workspace is set up, you'll be able to go into your workspace and add additional things that you need to like separate your workspace up so that it works the way that you want it to work. Inside the workspace is where you're going to keep all of the information that the bot is using as context in order to behave in the way that you want it to work, right? Uh, and if you really really want to hack it, you can keep your workspace inside of a private Git repo, and you can version control your agent's way of thinking, etc. But that's a kind of an advanced thing. So I wouldn't try to jump and do that immediately. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, definitely don't try to do that. But if you know what a private Git repo is and you know how to use GitHub, you can do that. But the moment that you use GitHub instead of keep it as a Git repo on your own machine, and you actually put it on GitHub, you're actually putting it on the internet. So even though it's private, it can still get hacked. And so make sure there's nothing crazy in there that you don't want to get leaked. And you need to be careful about that because you could have somewhat private information inside one of the memories or something along those lines. And that may not be something you want to do. So you got to be very, very careful about how you maintain that. Right? So, what are skills? We've been saying stuff about skills a lot, but essentially, all skills are is they're JavaScript modules, why we need Node.js, that define functions that the agent can call, which basically you're teaching the agent how to call one of these functions and get stuff and make stuff happen, which is why they can be dangerous because this function can contain malicious code. This example I'm looking at right now does not have any malicious code in it, but uh, but I mean you could have an extensive skill that has a very 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 complicated set of code, and it could be doing something that you don't want it to do. So you got to be careful and make sure that somebody that does know how to read code looks at the skill beforehand, or you could even show the skill to, let's say, for example, Claude Code, right? You can download Claude Code on your machine, and before you install a skill, you have Claude Code read it. You can share it with ChatGPT before you use it with your bot. You got to make sure you know what's inside this system before you just go ahead and try to run it and use it. You got to be careful, right? Now, your prompts, system prompts that you can create, which system prompts, they're going to define how your agent actually thinks, talks, and behaves, right? The main system prompt, like we said, lives in soul.md, but you can create additional prompts for specific tasks or contexts. Like, for example, when you wanted to work on, you know, something different, right? You wanted to be inside of creative writing mode. You wanted to be in marketing mode. You wanted to be here. You wanted to be there. You can add these additional prompts that basically explain to it how it should behave, like what its role is in this particular scenario. And if you know our RTTPOC framework that we've taught inside Digital Boss Code before, this is your chance to use that RTTPOC, right? Which I won't go into exhaustive detail here because we have whole classes on that. But remember, the R stands for the role. You tell it what it's supposed to do. You tell it the T stands for task. You tell it the task. The T stands for tone. You tell it how it should speak. The P stands for purpose. You tell it the purpose of why it's doing what it's doing, so it understands what the out like why you want it to do that. The O stands for output. You're telling it how it should return the information back to you. Do you want a website? Do you want a JSON file? Do you want a text file? Do you want a Google Doc? What the heck do you want back? And constraints tell it the stuff that you don't want it to be able to do, right? That you don't want it to do. That if it did, it would be bad. So like you're basically it's like you're telling your kid like don't touch the hot stove, or don't go when you're outside and you're playing, don't leave the neighborhood. You have to stay within these three houses, or you can't go past this street light, or whatever the rule might be. This is where you give it those constraints so that it knows what it's not allowed to do. Right? And then you can use variables where like you can automatically put in the user's name, the date, the context, and relevant memories as well inside the file also. So remember, your like we said earlier, we talked about memory. Your agent has long-term storage for memory of things of everything that you've previously done, right? So everything that it thought was relevant to save. Just like ChatGPT tried to store that too, but now you have control over it because ChatGPT will tell you use too much. This is not going to tell you that because you can store as much as you want, and you can edit them at any point. You can change what they say. Like it's up to you to change and work with the work with it, right? So that's the idea. So keep that in mind. Now what you probably may not want to do is change the memory from past conversations too much. I'll leave that up to you. It's not something I want to do. I wanted to kind of remember things and kind of learn from it as it goes. But that's completely up to you how you want to handle it. But just know that that those memories are in there, and if something is if you don't like the way something was remembered, you can change it. But keep in mind, the connections that you could jack up by doing that. It's like if somebody went into Jarvis's brain and just made it forget about the Battle of New York. That might be weird, and it might now, behave incorrectly. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Battle of New York, that's the Avengers movie, and Jarvis is the original AI, that Tony Stark was using in the Iron Man movies and all that. So yeah, so keep that in mind. So with that said, that's a quick overview of what OpenClaw is and what you can do with it. What we're going to be doing coming up soon is we're going to do a more hands-on walkthrough live where I'm going to help you set up your own bots and help you get the stuff running and going. I don't know exactly what day we're going to do it. Right now, I'm recording this is February 2nd, but pretty soon we're going to do that, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward to doing it. So, looking forward to y'all continuing to grow and expand, with this, because this has a lot of power. Hopefully, this got you excited about all the things that you can possibly do with this. And really remember to get going. It's not as complicated as you might think, but you have to be safe. Do not just start installing the stuff all willy nilly, just because you can. Skills are dangerous. They are the most dangerous thing that you can install on, in this environment. You need to make sure that any skill you install doesn't do anything malicious. And the only way you know that for certain is if you know how to read the code, or you can talk to somebody who does, or you can have some certainty if you talk to ChatGPT or something like that and you show it the code. But just don't install random things, and don't take for granted because a lot of people have installed something that something is safe, because this is the wild, wild west. So pretty much if you see something that's more than a few lines long for a skill, already you got to look at it with a side eye, because now it's doing something complicated. And why is it doing something complicated? So you need to ask them to get some code reviewed before you do it. And also, if your skill talks to some other third party machine, like it makes an API call, nobody knows what that API call is going to make happen unless they actually test it themselves. So once the code is trying to talk to another thing outside of just running code on your computer, and it talks something externally, that could mean anything, right? That can mean go ahead and send your social security number to North Korea or something like that, right? Like you don't have any idea what it's going to do. So keep that in mind. Hopefully this is helpful to you, and you're excited to go ahead and get started. You want to go ahead and you want to do it. You want to go ahead and run that command, right? You want to go ahead and install Node.js and run sudo npm install -g OpenClaw at latest. So this way that you can get your bot going. You want to go ahead and run OpenClaw on board, and you want to go ahead and get started, so that this way that you can kick everything off. So, without further ado, stay blessed, and I will catch y'all later.